Hello, my name is Katie MacIntyre, and I'm your host for the podcast, The Loving Cup, Elevate Your Gratitude. And we're live from the FingerLakes1.com studios in Seneca Falls. Today is Friday, September 21st, 2018. Welcome. So I wanted to start off with talking a little bit about the benefits of gratitude, which we've talked about before, but just to recap before we jump in with our guests today. So they really put the benefits of gratitude into 5 groups. And those are emotional benefits, so things that make us happier, and social benefits that improve our relationships. So that's our family relationships, friends, and with our coworkers. Personality benefits, you will find that gratitude enhances your optimism. Career benefits, so that helps us find meaning in our work. And health benefits, gratitude can improve your sleep and lower your blood pressure. And there's actually quite a few other benefits, and you can learn more about those just by Googling benefits of gratitude. The ones that I pulled up today came from positivepsychologyprogram.com. So this morning I have 2 guests. I have Jim Sinicropi, who you all should know. He's the president and owner of Finger Lakes One, and his mom, Susan Sinicropi. So welcome to you both.
Morning, Katie.
It's nice to have you here. So if you've seen my show before, you'll know I like to have my guests introduce the other to kick off. So Jim, would you start and introduce us to your mom?
My mom, Susan Sinicropi, was born in Seneca Falls and lived in Seneca Falls her whole life, other than when she was at Cortland State. Mm-hmm. She married my father, who's also from Seneca Falls and has lived in Seneca Falls, except for when he went to Syracuse University. And she is probably best known for being a teacher, an elementary school teacher, first grade for how many years?
Almost 30.
Almost 30 years. So that meant that all the kids, a lot of my friends and people that came before and after me, mostly after me, knew her, and felt fondly about her. And then she retired from teaching, and unlike most people who retire, take it easy, she took a more demanding job as a New York State teachers representative, union rep, and that was a change. And that was pretty impressive to change from elementary school teacher to union rep and deal in labor negotiations and everything. And then after she retired from that job, you thought she might hang it up, but instead she got a real estate license and now sells real estate for Century 21 Davoli real estate. And in between, she has always been involved and engaged in things. She was the chair of the St. Anthony's Festival. She was involved in the Seneca Falls Library effort to bring the new library to Seneca Falls. There's a million things like that, but she's always been super organized and motivated. And I think a lot of my good traits come from her and my dad. And very lucky that she was my mom.
Beautiful. Thank you. So that's a nice introduction for you, Susan.
Yes, it was.
Would you introduce us to Jim?
So, this is my son, Jim. He was born in Seneca Falls and lived here most of his life, except when he was at Syracuse University. He's done many things over the years, but I think he found his love when he got into the Finger Lakes One company and the web building, and that's his niche. And I've always been very proud of him for his drive and determination and getting things accomplished. Maybe not his organizational skills back when he was young, but although he used to put his toys back in the same box. He had to keep the box, and all those little Peebles and Weebles, and they always had to go back in the box. So I guess that started when he was young. So he's asked me to come and be here with him, and I'm very happy to do it.
Beautiful. So let's talk about what you're grateful for, the thing you're most grateful for in the past year. And either of you can go first.
Oh, that might take some thought.
In the past year? Well, I have a 13-year-old daughter, and as fortunate as I was to have her as my mother, I think my daughter's just as fortunate to have her as a grandmother. And so, you continue to see how she takes care of my family still. And so absolutely, that's what I'm most grateful for in the past year, is now my daughter's a 7th grader, and my mom continues to be very supportive of her and everything she does, which is nice. I don't think Jackie realizes how important that is yet, but she will.
It's great. Your grandparents are vitally important. How about for you, Susan?
Well, the past year is tough, although I think it's always an ongoing thing that you're thankful for. I can't think of any one specific thing in this past year because it's always been my family. So it would be family from when I married and raised my own children, and now the grandchildren. Many people who are grandparents will tell you there's nothing like it. I just want to be there for them and share in their accomplishments, and you get upset and share in their sorrows too when something goes wrong in their life. You just want to be there for them and help them to become wonderful young adults, which all 3 of mine are, including Jackie, of course.
So how many children do you have?
I have 2 children and 3 grandchildren.
Okay, yeah. Great. Wonderful.
Yeah. So I think that's an ongoing thing that I'm thankful for every day. Every day.
Beautiful. Well, that leads into my next question, is if you can think about your whole life and what you're most grateful for, and it may be that's the same answer, but Jim, maybe I don't know if you have something different that you want to share if you think about your whole entire life.
Well, I think when you're born, any person is born, they're born into a set of circumstances that set them up for the rest of their life. And I think I hit the jackpot. I couldn't have asked for better parents and grandparents and aunts and uncles. And so yeah, I mean, it's, I always knew that people loved me, and I always knew that my mom and my dad were proud of me, even when they shouldn't have been. So it's can't be underestimated, the luck of the draw when it comes to that. So I'm certainly grateful that I was lucky enough to be her son.
Pretty nice.
Very nice, very nice.
Anything
nice to
else?
hear it once in a while too,
Well, that's by design. This show helps that to happen. Anything else you want to add, Susan, if you think about your whole life?
My whole life, yeah. I have, of course, I was as equally lucky, I guess, to have wonderful parents. A very, very close family. They instilled family ties and family traditions, and were always there for myself and my siblings and my children. I think my children both were very close to their grandparents. On both sides. They're my husband's family too. But also, I think I'm very thankful and grateful for all the opportunities professionally and personally that I've had. As Jim said, I was a teacher. I loved teaching. It was my chosen career, and I absolutely love being with my first graders, mostly first graders.
It's a magical age.
It is. It's a wonderful age, and I was happy for a long time being their teacher. And then an opportunity, as he said, came up, which I'm again thankful for, that I was able to stretch myself professionally and do the work for the National Education Association as a labor specialist. And that gave me a lot of personal growth at the time when most people are ready to sit back. I really appreciated the opportunity to do that, and I did that for 6 years. And again, I appreciate that Gail Lohr at the time owned Century 21, and she said, "Why don't you and his wife, as a matter of fact, get your license and become a team?" So we did it. We had a great time getting our license together, and then Kathleen got a better job. And I said, well, I'll stick around for a little while. And that was 12 years ago.
So you've sold a few houses in the area.
Yes, which is nice. It's a feeling of accomplishment, I guess. Yes. What I like about real estate is I get to meet new people coming into town, and old friends. Children that I taught are now of age to start looking for homes and establish their own life. And I really like that part of it. That's my favorite part of it.
That's great. Well, they're lucky. I mean, everyone trusts their first grade teacher, so if then you can help them buy their...
Hopefully. Many don't remember their first grade teacher. But I do remember just about every child I ever had. And if I haven't seen them in all these years, sometimes they have to talk to me for a minute, and then I'll say, I know who you are. They change from first grade.
That's super. So let's talk about the community, and if you can share with me what you're most grateful for about this community, Seneca Falls, and also just Seneca County and the area, because you've been here for quite some time.
Me start?
Sure.
Well, yeah, it's the only hometown I've ever known, and I think it was someplace I always wanted to be. And it's true of my family and a few other families in town, but not everybody that lives here. But for my family and a few other families in town, you have extended family and relatives like right here, and it's been that way for generations. So I've always wanted to live here because I want to live somewhere that, where my identity is really ingrained, I guess, and where I can see all these people. I mean, literally, both my grandparents, lived here their whole life, and my aunts and uncles live here, and my cousins. I have so many cousins, you couldn't believe it, and like 90% of them all lived here. Like my grandmother on my father's side had 10 sisters and 3 brothers, or 9 sisters and 3 brothers.
Your grandmother, yeah.
Yeah, 9 sisters, 3 brothers. And every single one of them lived in Seneca Falls.
Wow.
Most of them on the same street. And the women married Italian men, different Italian last names. They had kids who ended up having kids who were all my cousins. So many. So to me, it's special to be able to live in a community where your identity is so ingrained in the fact that so many you have that bond of relation. But then I have so many friends who who I'm not related to, who I grew up with, who are still here, and so now that we're that whole generation, my friends and some of my cousins are having their own children and raising them here. That's the most important thing about Seneca Falls. There's a lot to be proud of about being from Seneca Falls too, with the history and in the region in general. Is so beautiful in the Finger Lakes.
Definitely.
So yeah, I think it's kind of a unique situation, and I never wanted to live anywhere else. I could never imagine living anywhere else. Visit other places, but live here.
That's awesome. I think not everyone has that chance to really have. I mean, if you had a reunion, probably most of the town's going to come.
It used to be in the newspaper when one of our reunions were so big when I was a kid.
How fun.
Yeah. But there is a disconnect with the generation back then of my great aunts and uncles. They're all gone now, and it's not as all tight. So I have the sprawl of relatives and stuff, but it's not as centralized as it used to be. Now it's one generation removed. So
maybe it's time for another reunion.
Yeah, we do. We do things. It's not an official reunion, but
no, we do try to get as many together as we can. It's huge. Both sides of my family, both my parents and had large families, and so to pull that family together would be 500-600 people. So,
wow.
Yeah. By the time 14 siblings have children, and they have children, and then they have children. My mother was the youngest in her family, And when she was born, she was already, I think, a great aunt. I know an aunt a
Wow.
number of times over, but I also think she was a great aunt when she was born. So then marrying into a very large family here in town with the closeness, our reunions got, on both sides of the family, got enormous.
Where do you hold them?
Well, we used to go to the park.
Yeah, the state park.
That was a long time ago when he was young.
We used to have a smaller one at our camp on the lake, SMS.
Yes, we've been around. We've tried a lot of places.
That's good. That's good.
But it does get overwhelming. Our core family now, my brother-in-laws and sister-in-laws and that extended family, which is growing and growing and growing, we do get together a lot, which is very important. As Jim says and feels, I'm sure that the closeness is a wonderful thing to grow up with and to instill in your children.
Well, it's important too. I really enjoy. So my daughter can identify with the same type of things with this community and family that I did. So ideally, I'd like her to live in Seneca Falls too. Her life and career might take her elsewhere, and that would be fine too. But something to be said about living your life. I would like her close by, if possible. But a lot of time to figure that out.
Yes, don't rush it.
Yeah.
She's got a whole. She's only a seventh grader.
Seventh
She's got
grade, yeah.
lots of years to enjoy to not worry about that.
For sure.
That's good. So before today, did either of you think much about gratitude?
No.
I always think about it. I usually don't tell my parents probably exactly how I feel about them very often, but I think about it, sure.
I think gratitude is an expression of your thankfulness. And so you think about it more than you really realize that you do. And like Jim just said, although he doesn't tell us all the time, we certainly know it through actions and the caring that goes on between the members of our family. It's something you just know and feel. It's the emotional side of gratitude.
Sure.
So I think we all have thought about it, but live it is more important.
Do you feel like you've taught that to your children, or that your grandparents or your parents taught that to you, either of you?
I think just the way of life. They lived it, so it became something that you were brought up in under those thankful, close, emotional ties with your family. And so yes, they taught us, but it was not sit down at the table and say, okay, we're going to talk about gratitude and how you can be thankful.
There's examples of, seeing the way that my grandmother and grandfather interacted, or the way my grandfather cared for my grandmother, or how, or how they treated me or everybody else. They never, like my mom said, they never sat down and said, here's what's important in life, you need to do it this way. But if you're exposed to them
They
for
certainly
long
showed
enough,
you.
Yep.
That's super. So one question I really love to ask is if you can each share what you're most grateful for in the other.
Most grateful for? It goes back to what I said about being fortunate enough to have a mother who you never had to worry, could always count on her. Like, you never had to worry about how she felt, or if she's going to be there for you, or for all things. Whether it was when you're a kid and you're hungry and she's going to put food in front of you, or when you get older and you need some advice or support. Even little things like I'm so busy and kind of a mess, and my wife works long hours, and so she helps make our house nicer by, doing things, whether it's helping with a project or buying us that one thing that we need. I mean, it's just like it's just constant support since as long as I can remember, and it hasn't changed. And 47 years later.
That's awesome. So your mom has this sense of what you need or what she could help you with, and she just makes that happen.
Well, my mom is passive aggressive a little bit. So if she wants it to be a certain way and it's not, she's going to push it that way, and it's usually a good thing.
I guess that's good.
Yeah.
That is good.
What I'm most grateful for about Jim? Many things. As a parent, I guess once that child is born and placed in your arms, you're just grateful that they are who they are. And he has always made us proud. He has developed into a wonderful, used to say young man.
He's still a young man.
And I'm very proud of the way he's raising his daughter and the family that he's creating, his core family. That makes me very proud. So
wonderful. So I know you mentioned that your mom was involved with different things in the community. Are you still doing different things with the community, with groups? And
Well, yes, I'm very busy with real estate. I didn't realize it was going to be quite as time consuming, but if you do it right, I guess it is what you make of it. So, and I also sit on the library board. And while the kids were going through, the grandchildren were going through the elementary grades, I went back in and volunteered to listen to children read and tried to help out in the classroom if they needed it. And so right now I'm in a transition. Closer I get to true retirement, which...
Do you see that on the horizon, or that's just an idea that's still kind of...
Well, I bat it around all the time.
She'll fill all her time up with things if she retires.
There'll be so many things that I
retire.
can do in the community. And so I plan on eventually retiring and getting more involved in the community, more time available to use for the community.
That's great.
Seneca Falls really is a wonderful place to live and be a part of this community. I think it goes back to my dad's love of history and growing up here with mom and dad who grew up here, that you get that strong bond to your community. And I think that's one part that I like the best about real estate too, is I get into some of the historic homes in town and able to tell new people coming into town all about the homes and our community in general. So
yeah, it's a beautiful place. It really, Seneca Falls is a special place. So what about some of the things that you're involved in? I know you do tons with different races and helping to make sure people know about things.
Yeah, I'm president of Seneca Falls Country Club, so that takes a little time, and I care about that place quite a bit, which is another example of things like neither of my parents golfed, but for whatever reason, when I was 11 or 12 years old, I really liked the idea of golf. And so next thing you know, I'm in junior golf, and I have golf clubs, and and I end up working down there. And when I say that, I mean my parents, understood that that's what I wanted to do, and so next thing you know, I had the tools to do it, just like everything. And so that does take a lot of my time. Running this business is a relentless 665-day-a-year job, and just trying to keep your home, make your home, like I mowed the lawn last night.
Fitting it all in. It's a crazy puzzle, isn't it,
and
sometimes?
Then my daughter, I loved coaching my daughter. She's now in school, so I'm doing less coaching and more spectating, but I have to go to a soccer game in Newark this afternoon at 4 o'clock. And so yeah, and I like to go out to eat a lot around here. There's lots of great restaurants, and so I really enjoy that too. I have no problem at all keeping busy.
That's good. So if people are watching and they haven't been to Seneca Falls, what should they do when they come here, and what should they see?
Oh, where do we start? I would say visit the Women's Rights Hall of Fame. And I think that they should take the tour around town and see the historic spots and even the architecture. If you have any interest in history and architecture, this is the center where you can enjoy and learn about that.
Feel like it's a wonderful life. You should stop at the museum. I mean,
yeah,
it depends when you
museum.
come. There's different weekends to come.
Sure.
But I would start downtown. Stroll through downtown, grab some lunch, walk along the canal. Hopefully, it's a nice day. And if you have any questions, stop and ask somebody, because generally people around here are more than happy to
They'll point you where you need to go.
Yep.
So, can you tell folks about the It's a Wonderful Life Festival, in case they don't know? Because that's going to be here before we know it.
Yeah,
it's the first day of
corner.
fall, but it'll be December soon.
Well, I remember the first time I ever saw it. I was my mom was in her bedroom wrapping presents, and there was this black and white movie on TV that had just started, and I'd never ever watched a black and white movie. I was probably 8 or 9 years old, maybe. And I remember I started watching it, and I couldn't stop. After a while, it was the best movie I've ever seen. At the time, it still might be. It probably still is. And that was before we even really realized that it was based on Seneca Falls.
Sure.
But I noticed that it was similar to
It felt like home.
Yeah, it felt like any hometown kind of. But then when I got older and saw all the connections and stuff, but yeah, that is the weekend of like the 12th, 13th, 14th that went around there in December. 5K race, parade, weekend full of events. It's amazing, and it's another amazing thing about Seneca Falls that we can bring thousands of people here in December to upstate New York to that festival. It's amazing.
It is awesome. And the race is great, so you could Google the race and see actually some footage that Jim has put together with drones and some things you can see people running through. But I've run a lot of races, and that's one of my favorites because it's so festive. Like, people decorate their homes, and it's at dusk, so you see all the Christmas lights, and there's always shot skis, so if you want to run and have a shot of Bailey's, that's an option too. Like, all kinds of different festivities. So before we close, anything else you want to share with folks about gratitude, about each other, about Seneca Falls?
I'd just like to say thank you for having me on. It's been an opportunity that you don't often have to sit and talk with your son about gratitude and things that are important to each other. So
thank you
very
here.
much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thanks for when you came and said you wanted to do a podcast and you didn't really have an idea yet what it would be, and then you came up with that idea. I didn't really get it. I didn't understand, but I had faith in you. If you liked it and thought it was going to be good, I figured it would be. And I think it's become a refreshing change of pace for us here at Finger Lakes One for the type of content that we're producing, and it's good. And then, when I say that my mom has helped along the way to like, if you think about it, if it wasn't for her, none of us would be here doing this right now. So you wouldn't have a podcast if it wasn't for her.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
I'm grateful to you.
Thank you.
So thank you both. So that does bring us to the end of our time today. So thank you for tuning in. Please share your gratitude. Have a great week. And we'll be back next week with more guests for the Loving Cup. Elevate your gratitude. Be well.